Welcome back to Mastering MMA. I'm Coach Lee here with you again. So today we are going to talk about injuries. So, majority of injuries you can work through, right? And, well, not just injuries, but sorenesses. There's only, a handful of injuries that you can't really work around. Now, I'm saying this if you're trying to compete. If you're just, in there training for training's sake, then you might not want to push yourself that hard. But if you're trying to compete, you got to walk that fine line of if I push through this, is it going to be beneficial or detrimental to my success? Which is a really hard thing to figure out. And I've seen many athletes go to extremes on one way or another. Either it doesn't matter what the injury is, they push through it, right? It could be, something's broken and they're like, all right, back in the gym, let's go 100%. I broke my hand, but I still want to spar, things like that, which ends up being detrimental to their success because they don't heal properly, or they end up making the injury worse than it already was. And I've seen athletes go the complete opposite way too, which is they have a little bruise and they won't train for 2 weeks because of a little bruise. I actually saw a guy pull out of a fight because he had a cut in his ear. It was kind of like right in this area. It wasn't bad. He just got scratched when he was grappling. Pretty deep scratch, but it's your ear. It was definitely a manageable injury, but he pulled completely out of the fight. Now, I think a lot of that was it was going to be his debut fight as an amateur, and I think it was nerves just getting to him. But that's just an example. I've seen piles of those happen where people have not trained because of something minor, or overtrained with a major injury. So in general, if you're looking to compete, you need to find where that fine line is, right? If I sprain my ankle, I don't want to be doing jumping jacks and sprints and anything that's bouncing off of it, right? If I sprain my ankle, I'm probably not going to be rolling live unless it's a minor sprain. But even if I'm in a fight camp, right, I'm going to work around that, right? I'm not going to be doing box jumps. I'll do like single leg squats or something, something to let that injury heal, right? It'll be wrapped up. I'm going to baby it. I will only be rolling with people that I trust, and that's not a 100% roll. That's a more of a flow roll type thing, but it's people I trust to not make it worse. Or in the case of now, since I really don't compete anymore, my athletes, I'll be like, hey, go with him, let him know about your ankle. The other thing that happens here is I've had people working with me before, and I can tell something's off when they're throwing kicks, and come to find out they've got a foot injury or an ankle injury or something, and they just didn't want to step up and say something in class. Like, don't let your ego get the best of you. Say something. Hey, my foot's injured. What can I do to work around this? Right? If I'm showing a technique where we're finishing with a big kick, then I can show you the same technique all the way up to that kick and then change what we're doing at the end, whether it be to a knee or an elbow or a punch or a takedown, whatever it happens to be, to avoid you having that extra impact on your ankle or your foot or whatever type of injury you have, right? So you need to talk to your coaches about that. And if you're a coach, you need to try to watch your students and see if something's off, ask them, right? They might be too proud to say, Coach, I can't do this today, right? And it happens. And that's part of your job as a coach, is to not let your athletes push themselves to the point of detriment, right? And I'm a big fan of push as hard as you can, right? But we want to be doing that to the point where we're improving, right? There's a fine line there, right? I can push this far, but if I go over that line, then it starts going back down. So you got to kind of play with that. And the older I've gotten, when I do start getting ready for competitions now, I can tell I've really got to listen to my body. I'm 39 now, so granted, I'm not ancient, but I've got lots of rough miles on this body. Right? I've been playing sports my entire life, some rougher than others, but there's a couple broken bones in there and things like that. So I've got injuries that have lasted throughout the years. So I have to listen to my body. I can't train like I did when I was in my 20s, getting ready for a fight and just wide open every day, unless I had a serious injury and then it was wide open, but we're going to work around that. So more so now than ever before, I've really got to listen. Like, all right, I've done 2 hard days. I'm sore today. Like, is it good for me to push today, or should I just go on a jog and try to keep things loose? If you're younger, you might not have that issue, but everybody's body's different, right? Some people might be younger and still have to deal with that just because their body doesn't hold up to that. Some people are injury prone. So as a coach, we got to watch out for those things too. Try to keep that in mind. But if you're having an issue, say something to your coach. Don't push through something that's going to detriment you. And if you've got that trust relationship with your coach, right, there shouldn't be any kind of issue there. If he thinks it's something you can work through, then you all can have that discussion like, hey, okay, so this is what it is. Well, it's probably just a bruise, right? We can work through that. Or they might be like, whoa, we're not doing anything around that injury at all. We're going to work the complete opposite side of your body, or the lower part of your body if your injury is upper, or vice versa, right? So that's something you can talk to about with your coaches. But don't be afraid to say something. Don't let your ego hurt your progress. Now, with that being said, if you're an athlete who's going to fight or is fighting, you're going to hurt, right? There's going to be bumps. There's going to be bruises. There's going to be twists. There's going to be tight muscles. All of that's going to happen, right? And we've got to push through a lot of that, right? There's a big difference between injury and sore. Right? An injury is something you actually need to take care of, right? Sore, not that you don't need to take care of it, but you can push through sore, right? You might not be doing 100% of what you are able to do because your muscles are hurt or something, but that doesn't mean we need to completely avoid them, right? We can still push to some level and be able to advance our abilities, as opposed to an injury. If we're pushing through it, right, we're usually gonna end up to the detriment. When I was fighting, I actually had to do physical therapy on the upper part of my back, base of my neck. I messed it up in fight camp, right? Determined to fight, I was going to physical therapy, and I've got a lot of trust in the guy that works on me there. He understood what I was going through, so I put a lot of trust in him. And while I was in my fight camp, I was doing my physical therapy. He told me what I needed to work around, what I could and couldn't do, and it really helped out a lot. I was able to push through my fight camp and go through my physical therapy at the same time, and be able to go out and perform very well, right? And I very easily could have hung it up as soon as I was like, oh man, my neck doesn't move right now, right? But my coaches said, hey, let's figure out what's going on here. Go see the doctor, whatever, right? Because it was above their ability. So the physical therapist I use, he's fought also, so he knows what I go through. I've got a lot of faith in him. I went to him. He's like, man, this is pretty bad. We can work on you. Let's push into it a little ways and see how it goes, right? So he gave me some options, right? If it was getting worse, then we were going to pull out of the fight. But I didn't just right away like, oh no, I'm hurt, this is it, right? So that's some of the things you have to do if you're going to be a fighter, right? It's rare that you're going to feel 100%. Extremely rare. Maybe after everybody goes back and the gyms open up, after everything's been shut down because of this coronavirus. But other than that, it's few and far between, and I'm pretty sure most people still aren't going to feel 100% then, because I know a lot of y'all are out here pushing yourselves, you know, whether it's runs or home workouts or whatever. But you got to figure out what level of care you need to give whatever injury you have or soreness you have, right? There's lots of things you can buy to help yourself at home. Ice baths, that's something you can easily do at home. Helps out with a lot of soreness. I know a lot of people like Epsom salt. There's lots of things out there you can do. So when we're talking about muscle pain, my absolute favorite thing is a TENS unit. If you don't know what that is, it runs electrical pulse through your muscles and basically massages them out. You can adjust how it does it, whether it's a short pulse, long pulses, variations of it, how much electricity is going through it, and that does some amazing stuff. I use those a lot. If you don't have one, I would definitely suggest investing in one. Another thing I like a good bit is a percussion massager. Basically, I think the most popular and super expensive one is like the Tim Tam, but it's basically like a foam end or a rubber end, depending on what you get. But it's usually it's a ball, but some of them are points. They make them for your spine. It's different types of attachments that go on it, but it basically just goes in and out real fast and like hit you is basically what it does. But it can work out some nice aches and pains too. Like I say, the Tim Tam's super expensive. I do a lot of work with tools. I had a jigsaw. They make bits that are the same type of end that goes in your jigsaw, so it basically ends up being the same thing. I did that. I want to say it was $20 couple bucks for 6 different types of attachments. So it's definitely not as good as the ones that are made just for that, but considering the money I saved, it was well worth it. I like it a lot. I just put it in my battery powered jigsaw and work on whatever needs work, whatever's tight at that time. Another thing that's really good, and I'm sure most of y'all have used them at some point or another, is a foam roller. You can definitely work out a lot of aches with a foam roller. Help you get back at it. Things like Tiger Balm, I think it's called Blue Emu or something. Those types of creams, they help out too. Icy Hot sometimes. Icy Hot makes a patch that's kind of nice too. A lot of times if I'm having back pains or something, I'll put it on, wear it around work that day, help loosen it up, and then get it massaged out, whether I do it myself or whatever. My TENS unit, sometimes I'll put that on and wear it while I'm working too to help loosen up some stuff that's super tight. But those are some things that you can use to help push through your workouts when you're having those aches and pains and stuff. And if you're pushing hard, it doesn't matter what your age is, you're gonna have those, right? We're gonna have sore muscles and bumps and bruises, right? We're not in a knitting class, right? This is mixed martial arts that most of y'all are doing, or you're doing just jiu-jitsu or just striking. But either way, it's a combat sport, right? It's not we're not playing golf or knitting or something like that. We're gonna be bumps, bruises, aches, pains. Overall, we're gonna be healthier than a majority of the people that you know, but there is a price to pay with that, and that's what it is. So you've got to kind of figure out what's going to be what you can push up to before it becomes detrimental, and try to push right to that line as much as you can. Right? If you go over it a little bit, you feel like you're actually hurting yourself some, then back it down. If you've got an actual injury, make sure you don't go over that line to where you're going to cost yourself a lot of training time, right? Because that can be, if I'm sore and I push a little too hard, I'm even more sore the next day, right? That's not such a bad thing that, you know, I've got to slow down for a couple days. But if I've got an injury and I push too hard and I make that injury worse, like a legit injury, that could be weeks out of training without being able to do what I need to do. So that's going to be a huge setback to your training. So you got to kind of play with that line. But anyways, to wrap it up, let's check out some of those things that I told you about to help you out with your aches and pains. Like I say, I highly recommend a TENS unit. That thing is wonderful. So if you don't have one, go look that up. Various price ranges on them. I got kind of a mid-grade one, but it does what it needs to do. And like I say, I use it all the time. So if you haven't got one, go check them out. They're well worth the little investment that you're going to make. But other than that, I hope you like this video. Click like for me. Share on all your social media. If you haven't yet, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And we will catch you next time on Mastering MMA with Coach Lee.